And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your RBLR Rays show. Here today with me, I have Pat. How are you doing, Pat?
I'm doing good. I'm glad the Snakes have made it to the World Series. We're praying for Evan Longoria to get that ring, even if it isn't with the Rays. It's a great underdog story. Even if this playoffs have been really unpredictable and weird and random, I'm glad the D-backs are hopefully the ones that can emerge victorious. So I've had a good time watching the World Series.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of some unpredictability, we have a little bit of an unpredictable element here that we've brought on today. In the best way, and that is we're bringing on for the first time Remy Bunakevich. I think I spelled Vich. I think Bunakevich.
Yeah, I mean, close enough, right?
Close enough.
But yeah,
well,
Remy Bunakevich, I'm here to talk pitching, right? Something like that.
Yep, he is our newest analyst and newest writer for the website. Just put out a really awesome article that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show about some bullpen arms we could be potentially looking into acquiring. So he is here today to talk a little bit of pitching with us. And if you want to be around to talk pitching, talk hitting, talk a little bit of everything with us over the offseason, now is the best time to like and subscribe. Get on the RBLR train as we're continuing to roll through the offseason. We're going to have some even more fun stuff than today. We're going to keep getting funner and funner as we go throughout the off season. So continue to like, subscribe, be a part of what we're building. We're moving up on YouTube, continuing to get more and more subscribers. Thank you all for continuing to help us build this nation, build this the organization that we're building together to try to create the best content for you guys. So thank you all for your support. And someone that we have all enjoyed supporting basically all season is the subject of our player review today. He is someone that we didn't know 100% what to expect when we came into the season because he came in from outside the organization, but he made a enormous impact. And that is our subject for our player review today is Zach Eflin. Starting pitcher, had a phenomenal season for the Rays. Pat, what are your opening thoughts when I say the name Zach Eflin?
He was the horse. He was him, wasn't he? He was him. He was the leader of a staff, a veteran presence on a staff that was absolutely decimated with injuries all throughout the year. I think coming into the season, we were expected him to hold around the mid-rotation kind of level, around the 3 or the 4 slot in the rotation. And he ended up being borderline our ace alongside Tyler Glasnow by the end of the season. It was kind of a toss-up on whether or not he'd start game 1 or game 2. He's probably going to be in the conversation for opening day starter next year. I'm so thrilled that we brought him in, and he was the highest paid free agent in Rays history when we signed him, and he has made that investment so worth it in just year 1 of what's going to be a 3-year contract.
Yeah, some pretty strong praise. Remy, what do you agree? You agree with some of that analysis on him?
I mean, he's definitely a workhorse, right? Like, I think he pitched the most innings out of anyone in the rotation. I'm looking at him on Savant right now, almost 180 innings pitched. And besides all of that, like, he can throw 6 pitches, 4 strikes, and they're quality pitches on top of that. He added a sweeper midseason, and I think that became really, really devastating against right-handed batters. So he's just a workhorse. He's going to go out there and hopefully keep getting better. He's providing them with a great amount of innings. They're keeping him healthy, and he's getting money. So it works out for everyone.
It does indeed. Just some really, really baseline statistics for him. He started 31 games for the Rays to an ERA of 3.50. He won 16 games, which is tied for the American League lead in wins, lost 8. He pitched a total of 177.2 innings. He struck out 186 batters, which was good for a strikeout per 9 of 9.4. Really, really good. He only walked 1.2 per 9, which is amazing. Strikeout to walk ratio of 7.75 doing really, really good things, striking guys out, not letting guys walk. With pitch to an ERA plus. That's a baseball reference stat. ERA plus of 1.19, 1.19. Just really, really good overall statistics. I've got a question for you guys. We talked about how he came in as a free agent from the offseason. And I have said this a couple of times on the show, and that's that I think he's the most impactful free agent of the offseason of any team. So I did a little bit of digging on that. There was a lot of really high-profile free agents over this offseason. Guys like, Wilson Contreras from a catcher's perspective, Xander Bogaerts, Stanby Swanson, Justin Turner, Jeimer Candelario, DeGrom, Rodon, Evaldi, Bassett, Justin Verlander, Kyle Gibson. A lot of really big names were free agents this offseason. Even guys like that we didn't think were going to be big names had really good seasons, like Cody Bellinger. Just as a curiosity, who do you think had the most baseball or Fangraphs WAR of all free agents that were available in the offseason for pitchers?
Most Fangraphs WAR amongst free agents?
Amongst free agent pitchers.
Okay.
I'll give you a couple names that were free agents along with Eflin.
Okay.
Carlos Rodon, who was hurt for a lot of the season.
Definitely not him. No.
Jacob DeGrom, who was hurt as well. But then guys like Nate Evaldi had a really good season. Bassett for Toronto. Justin Verlander, Kyle Gibson, all some guys that were free agents that were signed during this offseason. Any thoughts on who might be the leader there?
I mean, I think that Gibson is pretty comparable to like Eflin in most categories, so maybe he was relatively close. He gave Baltimore, I think, something around like at least 150 innings plus, and he's getting a little bit older, but I'd assume they're around the same mark, but I could be wrong.
What's your guess, Pat?
I mean, I like the Gibson call. I mean, if Verlander was healthy all year, he could have maybe got up there. He puts usually high volume into his workload, but I don't think he was fully healthy this year. So, yeah, I think it's probably Gibson, right?
Gibson. So, Kyle Gibson put up 2.6 Fangraphs WAR.
Wow.
It's an okay season. It's a pretty good season for a pitcher. Who do you think put up the most WAR? Zach Eflin had a higher WAR. I'll get back to that in just a second. He did have the highest WAR amongst pitchers. I'm going to get back to just how high that was in just a second. Of the free agents, of the position players who were signed this offseason, who do you think had the highest WAR? By the way, I'm not counting Aaron Judge because he didn't change teams. He did have the highest. He had a 5 point. Dude played 100 games, had a 5.3 F4. Dude's insane. Anyway, of the guys who changed teams, we'll put it that way, who changed teams as a free agent, just some names: Trey Turner, Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts, Stansby Swanson, Candelario, Drury, Brandon Nimmo, Kiermaier, JD Martinez, Cody Bellinger. Of those guys, or anyone else who was a free agent this offseason, who do you think had the highest F4?
I'm gonna go on a limb here. I think Cody Bellinger, because I mean I think he was pretty good defensively, and at the plate he rebounded. Could be wrong.
That was a good guess. Cody Bellinger had a 4.1 F4, very, very high. Not the highest free agent F4 though.
Oh, okay. How about Dansby Swanson? He plays good defense at shortstop. That's a good way to accumulate WAR pretty quick.
That is the correct answer, Pat Davenport.
Oh, yes.
4.9 F4 from Dansby Swanson. A really underrated, I think. I don't think he gets enough talk. He had a very, very good season this year. Really, 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 I was impressed. I did not think he could put up the kind of season he put up. Really, really good season overall. So 4.9 F4 is the highest. That is the highest F4 put up by a free agent, at least that I could find. Maybe I missed one. But that's the highest F4 put up by a free agent. Zach Eflin's F4, what do you think it was? Just give me a guess what you think. So we know it's higher than 2.6 and it's lower than 4.9. Any guesses what that might be?
Yeah, 4.6.
4.6. That's a good guess. Pat?
I'll go 4 on the dot.
4 on the dot. 4.8. 0.8 F4 being the most valuable player that was a free agent that was signed during this offseason. And by the way, we talk about F4 so much, I think we're used to that stat. We talk about it a lot. So maybe we just sort of know what it means. If you don't know, FWAR stands for Fangraphs, which is the website that puts it out, and WAR stands for wins above replacement. What that means is that player provided 5 wins better than a replacement level average player. So what that basically means is that Zach Eflin provided 5 wins for your team. And I believe that. Like, sometimes you look at a guy's WAR, and you're like, okay, I understand that that's what the value that we assign to him as a player is, but did he really give his team 6 wins, 2 wins? Who knows? I believe that Zach Eflin provided 5 wins or more for this team. Something that I don't know the answer to, and I tried to look into it a little bit. I couldn't figure it out. I don't know how much these WAR stats, and maybe Ben, who is listening, could enlighten us, but I don't know how much WAR takes into account how valuable it is to pitch innings in the perspective that you are saving your bullpen innings as a starter by pitching. So there's a lot of value, I think, added there, because when you look at the value to this team, the amount of innings that he pitched and the consistency with which he pitched them is so valuable, I think, to this team, that those 5 wins above replacement that he put up, or roughly 5 wins above replacement that he put up, were, very, very big. But I think it could even be bigger because of the value that he provided this team with those innings. What are you guys' thoughts?
You want to go first, Brad?
I think, yeah. So on the back of you announcing that incredible WAR stat for Eflin, I had a look at just the pitching WAR leaderboards for 2023, and he's 9th overall amongst all pitchers in baseball in WAR in that stat. But what surprises me the most is kind of the WAR accumulated to innings pitched ratio that he's kind of accumulated. He has the second least amount of innings pitched in the top 10. So he's actually kind of up there with pitchers that threw loads more. So like Logan Webb threw 40 more innings, but only accumulated 0.1 more WAR than he did. Same with the likes of Garrett Cole, Zach Gallen. Probably accumulated that WAR just from volume. But really, if we look at kind of on a per inning basis, and I know Fangraphs WAR is kind of it starts with FIP, which is fielding independent pitching, which kind of just takes into account how good the pitching itself was, and on the 3 true outcomes as well. And that means that in terms of just 3 true outcomes, he was right up there, probably top 3 with the likes of Zach Wheeler, Spencer Strider kind of level, which is crazy.
No, yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. One thing I remember just from just the eye test, just seeing him in his starts, Zach Eflin would go like 10 pitches in an inning sometimes, right? And he just would grind through innings pretty easily. And it's something I think I've noticed where the Rays pitching philosophy has shifted from going for gaudy K percentages, right? Just going crazy, 30% strikeout rate, whatever. Now they're just nah, we'll just get through innings as quick as possible. That way, we can just keep rolling and limit hard contact. That's one thing they want to do too, right? Because if you're going to miss with a pitch, you're going to miss big, and that could result in a home run, double, etc. But that's one thing he did super well. He's just limiting hard contact. And that's why he was able to keep his pitch count so low. But I think another question for you guys would be, how do we measure the impact that he had on the clubhouse? Because I know that Peter Bendick spoke really highly of him and Beekman's presence and helping all these young players. So maybe there's an F4 stat for that somewhere.
Well, that's something that Ben talked about, or has talked about a lot, is that clubhouse camaraderie and consistency is worth 2 wins in a season at least. So I think you're 100% right there. I think having a clubhouse leader guy, especially when you consider a guy like Glasnow, who is who's a big leader in the clubhouse, being hurt for so much of the season, Eflin, I think, definitely stepped into some of that role of being a leader in the clubhouse. It's something that everybody has talked about for him. It was something that we've talked about throughout the season, and we've seen it from players, from coaches, people just talking about his leadership. And it is so valuable to have guys, I think, on both sides. Whether it's you got to have guys that are pitchers that are leaders on the team, you got to have guys that are position players that are leaders on the team, and having a guy like Eflin come in and be able to assert that presence of leadership after coming in from the outside, I think is really speaks to what a good leader that he is. And it speaks to why I think I'm so I'm so grateful that we're going to have him going into the next season, because we're going to need it, especially when we consider that we're going to be missing 3 of our top starting pitchers going into next season for an extended period of time. We're not going to see Shane. You're going to see, Rasmussen sparingly. You're going to see Springs maybe for the second half, but having a guy like Eflin that makes you feel a lot better about that situation.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of when we brought in Charlie Morton a few years back.
Yes.
As that veteran guy that just kind of steadies the ship. I know it's a very old school mentality, but he is that kind of stopper. If you're going through a skid or you had a rough loss the night before and you see Zach Eflin's on the bump the next day, you just go, that's fine. We're going to be fine. The skid stops here. He's going to throw 6 innings, give up 1 run, and it's going to be great. And the great thing about that is it's just having that peace of mind that you could go to him. And I don't think he hit the IL all season.
I don't remember it if he did.
Oh, I think he had like a short stint at the beginning just to manage his knees, something like that. It was just like 2 weeks to just get him off.
Oh, that's true.
He's
You're
got
right.
a ton of knee injuries. So, but I mean, besides that, he was the most consistent starter and the best. Like, he was giving innings pitched. I mean, like Zach Littell kind of filled the consistency down the stretch, but Eflin was perfect combination of both consistency and effectiveness.
Yep, and I think that we're talking a lot of really positive things about him, as we should. I do think that one of the things that people may be thinking in their heads is the last time they saw him, which was they gave up 5 earned run in the playoffs. He gave up 2 home runs. It was kind of a rough end of the season for him. Remy, you have any thoughts on what may have played into that, having him kind of having a rough end of the season?
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't looked exactly what happened, but I think one thing you have to look at is, right, like fatigue. Like he's thrown, let me check really quickly. I think that was the most innings pitched thrown in a very, very long time. Give me 1 second. But one thing, I mean, you have to just credit the Texas offense. I mean, look where they are now. They got really hot and they hit a lot of homers and they managed to kind of just piece him apart. Now, looking at his innings pitched really quickly, he threw this season was the most innings pitched he's ever thrown at the MLB level. So definitely fatigue could have set in, and just with his pitch mix, maybe things weren't right. It takes one game for everything to go wrong. Even if you had a quality season, one game can make you get out of the playoffs very quickly. So that's just one thing I saw. I didn't look at the pitches specifically, but it just a better offense, I think, that day.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at his inning pitch, it's a really good call out. The last 2 seasons for him were equivalent to this season. He pitched 105 in 2021, pitched 75 in 2022. So he basically combined his last 2 seasons into one. He had a really strong end of the season in September and October. Note from Ben: September and October were his best months of the year. I believe that. I test. Like, I don't even need to look at the statistics. I test. I believe that he was pitching some very strong stuff toward the end. Is it possible that fatigue came in? Who knows? I think it's very tough to say. I think your point about sample size definitely is a good one, because we talked about this a lot on the show as we're trying to sort of dissect what went wrong to end the season. Is it possible that he was kind of emptying the tank at the very end of the season to give us some of the best innings he could give us to get us to the postseason, and he maybe ran out of gas a little bit when we actually got there? It could be. I don't know the answer to that question, but it definitely is a possible take. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, everyone was the whole team was completely just a step or 2 behind where they should have been in that playoff series. Nothing was quite clicking, and with Eflin in particular, I mean, every pitcher has a bad day. I mean, even whoever wins the Cy Young this year will probably have had at least 4 or 5 bad games. It's just a case of bad timing that the bad game came against a good lineup, and also on a day where the Rays team weren't fielding or hitting well either. So it all was just a big mess of everything going wrong at the same time. I think it would be super unfair to try and go, well, he doesn't have that dog in him because he had 5 bad innings. I think we've got to look over a larger sample than that. And he was very good for the Phillies, admittedly out of the bullpen when they won the National League Championship in 2022 as well. So it happens, I guess. I hate that that's like not very analytically much, but sometimes it is just a case of stuff happens and it was on a bad day for it to happen. But he wasn't backed up by his defense either, that's for sure.
Yeah, that definitely was an unfortunate sort of story of the postseason. Was that it seemed like a little bit of everything was wrong with the Rays going into the postseason, which is definitely it's an unfortunate way to end it, but it kind of is what it is. So the one thing I will say is when you look at postseason performance, sometimes pitchers perform poorly towards the beginning of a postseason and then kind of round into form towards the end. And we didn't get a chance to see that from Eflin because we got bounced in the first round. I'll give you an example. A guy like Merrill Kelly, who just last night threw a phenomenal game for the Diamondbacks. He gave up 5 runs over 10 innings pitched in the previous series. So you can be the guy that is everybody's talking about who's the ace of the hour, who just had a phenomenal game in the World Series, but the previous series had some rough games. So it's small sample size. It's unfortunate ending to the season, but I think we can all agree that he had a phenomenal season. He was one of, if not the MVPs of this Rays pitching staff. Pitched a great season for us. And as we look forward from how well he pitched last season, we look into the future. Pat, what do you think we can expect from him in 2024?
I think more of the same, if not better, assuming health prevails. I think obviously they want to be careful because they pitched a lot of innings last year, but I think he will take on that leadership role once again. I would expect, again, pushing that 180 inning mark somewhere, hopefully health permitting, and he will put up pretty much similar numbers. He might even increase that strikeout rate if he starts to factor in that sweeper a bit more, get more swings and misses. I really, really like Zach Eflin, and I think he is a consistent type of guy. I don't expect him to win the Cy Young next year per se, but I'm expecting him to, again, put an ERA in the mid to low 3s, push a lot of quality starts out there, maybe push 200 strikeouts next year if he stays healthy, and he's going to be, I think, by the game 1 starter if we make the playoffs next year. That's my hot take.
Game 1 starter when we make the playoffs next year. That's a very, very interesting take. It'd be interesting to see the circumstances that would create that, because obviously you'd love to have Glasnow for the full season, and I think if he's pitching at his best level, maybe he's the game 1 starter. But I think Eflin showed this season he has the stuff and he has the length. I think that when you look at a guy like Eflin, the length that he's been able to show that he can provide in games is definitely something that is a attractive trait in a postseason starter. If we're forecasting for the future, it's what I was hoping he would give us in this postseason. It just didn't work out that way, but I think he has the capability to do that. So that's definitely a strong reason to favor him for a spot like that. I agree with you. I think he's going to have another really good season. It would be the only thing that's kind of a bugaboo in my brain is when you look, at his career up till now, he has had a bit of the injury bug. He got away from that this last year, so we will hope that he continues that. I would love to see him put together another season where he's uninjured, because it's very clear that when he is not hurt and when he is just out there at his full strength pitching, he does a phenomenal job. So I would love to see that from him. Hopefully we do see that from him. Remy, you have any other thoughts on that?
On the playoff series or Eflin in general?
Just on what he might do in the future.
No, I definitely agree that using the sweeper more is gonna benefit him. I think I was looking at so he threw 102 sweepers and he racked up 17 strikeouts. That's pretty darn good. I mean, I can't do that like conversion in my head, but I mean, he's definitely getting a lot of swing and misses on it. The exit velocity is like pretty good. It seems like around like 86. xWOB is 221, so it's a good pitch. You'd have to incorporate that more against right-handed batters. One thing I did notice though, really quickly from that Rangers game, I think he just got like victimized on a couple of BABIP pitches. The Texas, they have a ton of left-handed batters and switch hitters, so he has to use cutters to like get in and create weak contact. But I think he just got kind of yeah, but yeah, that's a good point. I would have to check the vertical location too. But if I remember seeing like Corey Seager, he got a couple good hits off him, and same thing with Josh Young. And I mean, Adolis Garcia, like what a postseason he's been having. He had a homer off Eflin, so it could have been nerves. Who knows? I mean, it's hard to speculate, or I mean, it's easy to speculate, but it's like hard to know as an outsider's perspective to know exactly what went down. One thing's for certain, he definitely lost that game, which is the thing that matters most. But I mean, hopefully he's going to be healthy, and maybe he can convince Aaron Nola to settle down and join him in Tampa Bay. That'd be epic.
That'd be fun. It would be fun to see another high profile guy like that come back around to the organization. And we're going to be looking for pitchers to be a part of this organization going forward into the next year. And that's something that you wrote about in your article. So some arms that we could potentially be looking at. You want to tell us a little bit of a snapshot about what you were writing about and what your thoughts were from that article?
Definitely. I would say that as time's gone on, I've thought about a couple of other guys to feature. I'll just briefly talk about like some of the guys I mentioned: Michael Fulmer, Drew Pomeranz, Jorge Lopez, and then there's some more like interesting like rehabbing projects. I think those guys are way more unlikely, but like Jesse Hahn, he's former Ray, and Dylan Maples. Dylan Maples has had like nasty stuff for years, but he just has nothing. Like he has no clue of where it's going, which just sucks. And then there's like Corey Knable. Of course, he's former high leverage reliever, pitched in 2022 and suffered a shoulder injury. Uh, and yeah, there's some other guys, but I'll go really quickly over like Fulmer. I'm really sad he got hurt because he's just got like he's got a great supination bias, so he can just throw a sweeper just at elite levels. Cuts a ton of pitches. Has essentially a 6-pitch mix he can use well. Okay, so supination. So supination very basically is the idea that a pitcher's like hand, or I can't get my camera right, but like one's hand is able to generate sweep, which means you're able to get to the side of a ball, and you can throw it pretty hard. That's like a characteristic of that. And pronation's the opposite. It's when you're able to get carry or arm side run, and that's when your hand is going this way, like more like with a changeup. And so what he's able to do is he creates cut and sweep very well. That's why the Cubs taught him sweeper. He's got a great slider. It's like a cutter, but it's really just a slider. And then yeah, he got injured. That's just awful. It just sucks because now he's going to be out of money. Hopefully he's feeling healthier, but he just dealt with. I think he has like historically his arm issues. He used to be a starter, and then yeah, just kind of went down from there. But he also had a really good second half for the Cubs. Yeah, any questions on him from you guys?
Yeah, I think we
Rays. Oh, go on. You go on.
Go ahead. Pat.
Okay, I was going to say he's hurt and is going to miss almost, if not all, of 2024. Could the Rays grab him on a 2-year deal that could perhaps rehab him for a year and on the cheap, and then have him come in as a big factor in 2025? They've been known to do that before. Do you think the Rays could be a potential rehab destination?
I mean, it's possible. The only reason I think it's unlikely is because Fulmer's 31 and he did perform well this year. So a team like, I don't know, I could see a team that's still like analytically inclined, like the Tigers or maybe even the Giants. The Giants and Mariners love picking up guys who are like more or less injured and kind of rehabbing them. I just don't see the Rays, like, unless he really doesn't get offers and they can sign him to like a minor league deal. But also with the Rays, it's a matter of 40-man space. And you know how much that matters. You need, guys like Josh Fleming and everyone else coming up. So if you have a guy who's just injured for a year and a half, well, we already have 4 or 5 guys who are injured for a year and a half. So that just doesn't help too much. But that's a great question. I would love to see him. I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah, going into I'm fascinated with the pronation and supination thing. So I'm gonna talk about that for just a quick second. So what I've heard, my understanding of that is that pitchers, generally speaking, are more inclined to one or the other. And where sometimes pitchers can get into trouble is they try to throw pitches that are designed for one or the other when they shouldn't really be throwing. Am I speaking correctly on that?
Oh, that's definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
go
yeah,
ahead.
that's really interesting, and I'd be curious to know how many how many pitchers, because I know that the sweeper is something that is really taking over baseball. Do you think there's a lot of pitchers out there right now that are not, because a would you say that someone who's a supinator is more inclined to throw a sweeper, just like generally?
No, definitely, it's very natural to them.
Yeah.
There are even some guys in the Rays in the past. Obviously, Chaz Rowe is an extreme example of a supinator. He can generate I guess it's for so there's the TrackMan, right, which is a tracking system of like pitch metrics. And it's negative for a right-hander, it would be negative sweep or negative horizontal break moves left on the axis. He's able to generate that very easily and at a high velocity. That's kind of like a telltale sign someone's more inclined for supination.
Hmm. So do you think there are some pitchers out there, because there's been some discussion online about how sweepers are uh, just they're not good, because, and I wonder if maybe the reason why some pitcher sweepers are bad is because maybe they're pronators that are
Right.
trying to throw a sweeper because it's a good pitch that everybody's throwing right now. Do you think there may be a chance that some pitchers are trying to throw a sweeper that shouldn't be throwing a sweeper, and that's why they're maybe getting bad results?
No, I totally agree. Actually, one guy who comes to mind from this pitching staff is Josh Fleming. If you remember, he changed his curveball shape, and I'm pretty certain it was because they wanted him to lean into like get that curveball more in the sweeper shape because his pitch mix is very horizontal, right? So having that horizontal offering would really help him. I'm afraid he's, at least from the data I've seen, and obviously it's easy to tell in person how much someone's pronator because you can like literally look at their arm or hand or wrist. But he very much seems though like a pronator, able to generate a lot of depth and run on his sinker and his changeup, and he can rarely generate any sort of sweep on the curveball.
Mm,
And look, he suffered an elbow injury halfway through the season, which most likely was him throwing that pitch. Like I could be
mm.
wrong because I'm not inside of the organization. That's one thing I've heard in pitching circles where you don't want guys to throw that because, as you're saying, it's going against their natural tendencies, and that can create a lot of arm injuries in the long run.
Mm. Yeah, and I think I'd be interested to know, like, when you look at some of those pitching injuries, is it possible that even not even coaching staffs, players are seeing? Because I think right now we're in an era where pitchers are like stealing each other's pitches, and not in a bad way. I mean, the
Yeah,
imitation is a serious form of flattery. I think people are seeing other pitchers that are working, and they're saying, "Well, I can do that," and they try to throw a pitch that maybe they shouldn't throw, and it maybe lands them in some hot, and some hot water from an injury perspective or performance perspective. But that's my little segue on that. I'm fascinated by that supination and pronation stuff. I'd love to even deep dive into that more sometime. And if you would like to deep dive into your wardrobe and find something truly excellent, you may deep dive into your wardrobe today, and you may say, I don't really have anything that really takes me to the next level. Well, you don't need to deep dive, because you can go right to shop.rblrsports.com and find an excellent outfit for you. Well, I don't know if we should do we shop pants? We should probably have some pants on there too to complete the outfit. But we have hats, we have t-shirts. They're really excellent stuff, and they can, if not create your entire outfit, complete your outfit, and make it elite. And whether you're a pronator or a supinator, you can wear a Shop That RBLR Sports RBLR Nation t-shirt and look excellent in it. That is for everybody, no matter what way your hand rotates when you try to pitch. You can wear some excellent merch from shop.rblrsports.com. Promo code FLAPPY to get 10% off everything at the store at shop.rblrsports.com.
I Bring Back the Devil shirt around last week, and someone said that I had more drip than a Rays tank with a leak. So there you
That
go.
is a great. We got to put that on a t-shirt. More drip than a raised tank with a leak. That is it. That is excellent. I love that. So that's any before we kind of wrap things up. Any other thoughts on Zach Eflin as we kind of close his player review?
I think he's the most vital member of the pitching staff going into 2024. I think he is. If we need one pitcher going into next year, it needs to be. If I could pick one pitcher and we had to trade away everyone else going into next year, I would keep Zach Eflin.
Wow, those are some strong thoughts. What about you, Remy?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely pivotal in this rotation. He's one of the best starters, as you said, in baseball. Hopefully, a repeat performance will happen. I think there will be some regression. Definitely, just want to focus on keeping him healthy. And I mean, if he throws the sweeper more, he's going to get more strikeouts. Hopefully, but it's really a matter of just keeping him healthy and maybe not trading away Tyler Glass now. I've heard a little bit about that. I don't think that's the best idea.
Stop
But
it. Stop talking about it. I've had it about up to here with that. I got into it a little bit. I should have done it, but I got into it a little bit with somebody on Twitter over the last week about trading away Tyler Glass. Now, no, absolutely not. And I don't care if they're listening to offers. I don't want that. You stop listening. You need to stop. I don't want to hear any offers. Shouldn't happen. Not at all. Now
I have one question on Eflin.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
My last question on Eflin is if he's going to go with using the sweeper more. I know that that's a pitch that can have a bit of an adjustment period, and you could argue he's had it this year. One of Zach Eflin's biggest strengths is his lack of walks. He doesn't walk anybody, right? He's only got. If he throws the sweeper more in pursuit of more strikeouts and therefore generates more walks off the back of that, would that regress his value, perhaps?
It's a great question. I mean, definitely possible. With a bigger pitch, it's going to be harder to get it in zone, which is probably why they're going to use like a middle setup. But also with using a bigger pitch, at least from the results I've seen, you're going to get a lower exit velocity when contact is made. So it's kind of almost like a double-edged sword, I feel like, where you'll suffer walk rate at the expense of like a strikeout rate, but also you're going to get less hard contact, I think. I would have to do more research on that, but just from like eye test and other guys have seen with a lot more bigger breaking pitches, they tend to get a lot of weak contact.
It's a good point. So if we're going to give, as we end our Zach Eflin player review, if you were going to give him a letter grade for this last season, what would you give him, Pat?
An A, a straight A.
A. Remy?
Definitely an A.
Yep, he gets an A from me. Maybe I'm gonna save my A plus. And nobody else has to do this. I'm gonna save. I have one A plus that I'm gonna give out this year. I'm gonna save it, but I'm gonna give him an A, a very strong A, like a high A, not quite a plus, but a high A. Really, really excellent season from Zach Eflin. Hope to see more of it next year. Now, as we close today, we're gonna start a little bit of a new segment here on the show where we're gonna ask a question, and we want you, the viewer who is listening, to tell us what you think. This question is going to be for the audience. We will answer it next week as well. When we come on, we'll talk about it and give our answer to it. But we also want to highlight some of your input. So if you have an answer to this question, and it can be as long form or as short form as you want it to be, it can be one tweet, it can be a thread. We'll have it on Twitter so you can take a look at that and give your opinion on it. But the question is, and it's kind of the question of the hour for this Rays team, and it's, do the Rays have the necessary pieces in place to win a World Series? And if not, what do they need to focus on in terms of adjustments to roster construction? And if yes, why do they keep getting bounced from the playoffs? It's a big question. Won't try to answer it this week. I think we'll all take some time to digest it and think about it and come back next week with another opinion. But take some time. We really want to hear what you guys have to think on this, because it's a big question. It's a big question. And we're going to do this every week going forward. We're going to try to throw out these questions to see what you guys think. Because we build this show for you guys, and we want you guys to be a part of it as well. So please continue to like, subscribe, and support the show. Support us on social media, respond to those questions, and give us some input. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening and being a part of the show this week. We're excited to continue to go into the off season. Thank you, Zach Eflin, for having a great season and giving us something to talk about this week. Thank everybody for being here. Go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.